You know, one of the reasons why I think that many of us struggle with being able to speak in front of a crowd is because of the lack of clarity or uncertainty. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 different ideas that will help remove that a certain level of uncertainty so that when you stand in front of a crowd, you are less likely to be nervous. Now, if you read the book, 7 Keys to Being Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey said that do not focus on things that you cannot control, but focus on things that you can control. Now, we cannot control the way the crowd responds to us. We cannot control the way people treat us when we speak. But what we can control is we can reduce the level of uncertainty. All right, so I'm going to be sharing with you 4 different ideas that's going to help you narrow down that level of uncertainty so that you are able to speak confidently in front of a crowd or even on camera. All right, let's see who's online first. Hey Bram, hey Richard, hey Jaden. You can tell that I'm still recovering from my voice, so excuse me if you hear me kind of whistling in my throat. All right, so idea number 1. Before that, right, I'd like you to, if you are watching this right now, I'd like you to stay all the way through, because at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving you something, all right? Something that you can take reference to so that it helps you communicate better as a public speaker or somebody who communicates on video. All right, so number 1, the first idea that's going to help you succeed as a communicator is this. I want you to know that you are good enough. All right, I want you to know that you are good enough. Now, I cannot hear you, I cannot see you, but what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand on your heart and say, I am good enough. All right, and I realize that for many speakers that I've encountered over the years that I've coached, I noticed that many of them feel that they are not good enough. And as a trainer or speaker, there is a term known as the imposter syndrome, right? Where you feel like you are faking your way, and you feel like you're not your true self. Now, I want you to know that it is a common experience. That is why you need to first believe that you're good enough. Then you are able to discover what is it that makes you unique. All right. We live in a society where many people they tend to speak negative things rather than positive things. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you received a compliment or given a compliment? 1 week, 2 weeks, a month ago? Well, for many of us, maybe even a month ago would be unrealistic, right? We would have received a compliment or given a compliment maybe more than a month ago. Now, if we've lived in an environment that hardly reaffirms the good thing, instead reaffirms the bad thing, is it any surprise that we don't think the positive things about ourselves? Now, I want you to know that although we don't naturally perceive positive things about ourselves, doesn't mean that there is no value in you. So I want you to know, and I want to remind you again, that you have value, and there is something special about you that people want to hear, people want to know, right? Irregardless of your level of knowledge, position, or status. All right. So I want you to touch your heart again and say, I am good enough. Okay. So idea number 1 is, I am good enough. All right. Now, before I continue, I know that some of you have just joined in. Well, this series is meant for entrepreneurs, business owners, and corporate professionals. All right. We're going to share with you 4 different strategies over the next few weeks that's going to make you future ready. All right. So, irregardless of whether you are still again fully employed now or not, you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to share with you different strategies that's going to help you brand yourself so that your value is perceived the way it's meant to be. All right, and I want to tell every single one of you that you are valuable. So now we're touching about the 4 different points, or 4 different keys that's going to help you communicate more effectively as a communicator in a small group, to a large group, or even in front of the camera. So point number 1 was, you are good enough. All right, so I'm going to point 2 right now. Okay, point 2 is this. What do you think? Point 2 is, it is not about you. Now, let me share with you, okay? I started public speaking or speaking in front of a crowd at a very young age, as a teen, right, in church. And I remember there was one time I was given the opportunity to MC for somebody's wedding, right? And I was so nervous, right? And I said, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome the bride and the groom. Can you imagine how embarrassing that was? Now, it is almost certain that when we as communicators, whether in front of a camera or in front of a large crowd, think of yourself too much, likely you will fail. Because we become what we focus on. Does it make sense? So if you're constantly focusing on your weakness, focusing on your lack of ability, focusing on your lack of experience, then likely you are going to fail miserably. Now, we all want to fail, and we all know that failure is part of progressing, but you want to fail correctly. Am I right? You got me? You want to fail correctly, and that's with the mindset. You try all you can in the right direction and you fail, that's fine. But you want to fail forward, you don't want to fail backwards. Okay? You want to fail forward. Say with me, fail forward. Okay? You want to fail forward. So, it is not about you. Alright? So, you realize that whenever you're preparing for a speech or presentation, whenever you're thinking about yourself, almost inevitably you will fail. Imagine this, right? If you're presented before, if you're in front of a camera, just preparing for it, you suddenly feel, a few hours in fact before your presentation, you suddenly feel nervous, your brains, your amygdala, which is just at the back here, start to release chemicals that send you on a fight or flight mode, right? And then you start to see your knees knocking, your heart beating extra fast, and by the time you go up speaking, you fail. You forget what you want to say, and then you just go completely off point. Now, there's a way to overcome that. I'm going to share with you this, okay? It's my little secret that has helped me succeed standing in front of people, and it removes a huge weight off my shoulders. And that is, think of yourself every time as a servant. Whenever you're in front of a crowd, whether you're in front of a camera, whether you're conducting a training program, see yourself as a servant. Because you think about this, servant's primary objective is to make the master happy by what he does to serve him. Even if he fails, it is not about him, it is about the master. Many times when we are worried about how we look, we are worried about how people think about us, we are worried about the outcome. Many times it's because we think about ourselves, right? But let me share with you, the empowerment comes in when you think of yourself as a servant, all right? Somebody who is there to serve your community, serve the people around you. And when you do that, it removes a huge weight off your shoulders. I want you to know something, right? That I shared with you just now, that I grew up having all the experience, but when I came into the professional training environment or industry, I still felt nervous in front of a crowd. And I realized it was because I constantly think about myself rather than how I can serve the audience. And today it's so much easier for me, even sitting in front of the camera today, because I'm thinking about how I can serve you as my community with what I already know. Okay? So point number 2 is the way you can overcome the fear of public speaking to turn yourself from being fearful to fantastic is think of yourself as somebody that's serving the community or your audience. All right? So for those of you who have joined us, welcome to this series called the Future Ready Accelerator series. And in this series, I'm going to address 4 different areas that's going to help you be future ready, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or a corporate executive. All right? If you are here already, let me know by just hitting the like or the heart button. And yeah, so let's carry on from here. Okay, so this is point number 2. Now move on to point number 3. Point number 3 that's going to help you succeed as a communicator is this. So now we start off by talking about doing things that we can control. Try to minimize things that are known so that our outcome is more predictable. Now, wouldn't you say that one of the greatest fears as communicators is not knowing how your audience is going to respond or how effective you're going to be to your audience? Well, I've got the strategy just for you, okay? And it's a lot simple than you think. Now, at this point number 3 is known as audience analysis. So, irregardless of whether you are a salesperson, you are a speaker, or whether you are a trainer, it's important to first find out what your audience care about. Now, I can tell you this, right, that it is almost always that your audience and your objectives will be completely different. So imagine this, you are a salesperson, right, and your objective is to sell a product, correct? Now, what's the objective of the audience? That their problem is solved, right? So for example, you're selling a vacuum cleaner. You as a salesperson, objective is to sell the vacuum cleaner, am I right? Now, for the consumer, is his objective also for you to sell the vacuum cleaner? Of course not. If you tell him, hey sir, I'm here to sell you the vacuum cleaner, that's it. You will lose the sale, right? So remember this, that your audience what your audience care about is usually different from what you care about. And the only way you can be effective as a communicator, sales professional, or a trainer is to first find out what your audience care about. So let me share with you a story. Okay? It's something that you guys can relate to. Now, my wife and I, we bought ourselves a golden retriever for our wedding anniversary. Now, my golden retriever now is about 5.5 years old now. Now, when we first got Princess, which is her name, when she grew to a full size, right, she started to shed a lot of fur, right? And then what happened was, I didn't really like house cleaning, right? So every Saturday I had to clean the house, right? And it was frustrating to collect so much fur that you could use to build a pillow, right? And her fur was contributing to more than 50% of the dust in the house. So I told my wife Amy, why don't we cut Princess fur? Now, what my wife cares about is Princess's good looks. What I care about is having a clean house, right? So obviously my wife said no. She said, no, there's no way under heaven we're going to cut Princess's fur. Now, until one day, Princess started to develop rashes around her body. And guess what I said? I think it's because of the fur. Yeah, guess what my wife said? Let's cut the fur. You see, she only agreed to do what I wanted her to do only when we identified something that mattered to her. So similarly, when it comes to your audience, it is important to position yourself from your audience point of view in order to motivate action in your favor. Does it make sense? All right, so this is point number 3. And then lastly, point number 4 is engagement. Now, prior to this session, I had different ones of you come up to me and say, hey David, how do I keep my audience engaged? How do I keep them at the edge of their seat when I do presentations? Now, if that is you will want to pay attention to this segment. Now, before I share with you how you can engage your audience, you must first understand the way our brain works. Now, with the advent of technology, Google research have shown that our attention span is a lot shorter right now. In fact, our attention span is a lot shorter than that of a goldfish. Can you imagine that? A goldfish's ability to focus is about 8 seconds, and humans' ability to focus is about 8.2 seconds. Now, and that's because on a daily basis, we're all different things around us demand for our time, demand for our attention, right? And the way we can capture attention is to hack that. Okay, so let me share with you the way our brain works. The way our brain works is this: the moment it detects something predictable, it switches off. So for example, if I spoke to you like this, hey guys, welcome to today's series. My name is David. I'm going to be sharing with you. All right, almost right now, right? With me right now, you even feel like disconnecting. Why? Because your brain tells you this is predictable. Let's switch off and conserve energy. That is the primary purpose of your brain. That is why, in order to capture attention, there must be a pattern break. All right, write that somewhere. Pattern break. You must break the pattern that the brain predicts. Then it will capture the attention. So there are a few strategies that I have over here that will break the pattern of the brain. All right. Firstly, if you are speaking or delivering a speech or coming on to Facebook Live, never start by doing this. Hi everybody, my name is David, and today then you start introducing yourself and you go like, my name is this, and I come from. Hi, my name is David. I'm 38 years old and I'm married. I've got a golden retriever, shortly after people switch off, because this is how everybody starts their presentation. Okay, so in order for you to capture attention, you must always do something different. All right, so the best way to do that is to open up your speech or your presentation with a question. All right, so like this: what do you think? What would you do if today? Okay, excuse me. Let me think of a good question. Let's say if I open up a speech by saying, what would you do if you found out that today is the last day you would live? And then you pause, right? This would capture attention a lot more than introducing yourself. Now, you have to know one thing. Your audience do not care about you. Ouch! That's the truth. The audience do not care about you. The audience cares about what you have to give to them. So you always have to open up your speech or your communication with something that captures attention. All right. And one of the good ways to capture attention is asking a question. You could also tell a story, or you could also share a shocking statistic. For example, you can ask your audience, did you know that 1 out of 3 people would contract cancer? One out of 3 people between the age of 30 to 50 will contract cancer. Right, and then you pause. They may not get it yet. Then you can go ahead to say, I want you to look to the person on your left and your right. One of them is going to contract cancer. So now you made something so abstract and put it into their reality. Now their attention is captured. It is only at this point in time that you can share who you are, because you have just earned your right and your attention. Do you understand? All right. So point number 2 is get your audience to participate in an activity. So for example, whenever I teach people about change, I'll always ask them to fold their hands, right? And then I'll get them to switch the way they fold their hands. And then I'll tell them that that discomfort is the reason why many people avoid change. Got it? Okay, so you got to get them to participate in activity. Next is to tell them a story, which is something I'm going to be covering in series number 2. All right, the next one is be expressive in your speech. Yeah, and lastly is use pauses in your communication. Use pauses in your communication. So question is, when do you use pauses? You use pauses when you've made a key point, a key message. For example, did you know that in 2025, more than 80% of, or more than 90% of employers will look for employees on social media? Do you know in 2025, the CV that you have painstakingly taken time to create will be worth nothing? Then you pause. Now, pausing does 2 things. Pausing allows your message to sink into the person. It also brings your audience closer to you. All right. So I want you to notice the next time you communicate, or when somebody communicates with you, when you hear somebody pausing, ask yourself, how do you feel?